Hi there. Hey, we're going to finish off our coil pot. So once it gets to be leather hard, and sometimes you have to kind of take it out and feel it and make sure it's not getting, that it is getting a little bit leather hard. That's important. All right. So I usually, when it gets to be leather hard, I will double bag it. I'll always have two bags over it so it does not get too dried out. Also, sometimes I just had the top part. I wanted that to dry out a little bit, but I didn't want the bottom to dry out. So I'll take a bag like this, maybe wrap it around and lean it against something, or I'll take two bags and I'll have a little paperweight. So somehow I could even put a little piece of tape right here, just to kind of hold it on there. So it just allows the top to dry out. And really, you guys, I did that for about 2 hours in the classroom one time, and this became much firmer and able to kind of carve into it easier. Now remember, when it got leather hard, that's when your clay is becoming much easier to carve. So that's an important stage. And you can see I've done a lot of this. All this is fairly cleaned out, because what happens is when you start to score and attach, and don't forget to score and get it wet and attach, that's really important, you need to not forget to do that. Oh my gosh. And what happens is, as you're scoring and attaching and you're handling it, sometimes the outside elements kind of get smushed together. So you can kind of see the difference between this part right here and down here where I've done a little bit of work here. And you only need a couple tools for this last part. And again, this is fairly firm. It's still cool to the touch. Do not try to change the shape of it. You can do a little trimming that I'll show you. You need a little bit of water. You need a paintbrush and maybe a pencil, or I have a tipped little screwdriver thing. A paper clip is good to have. And what I like to do is I have a rag right here, kind of a folded up rag. So if I have to lean it one way, it's not going to cause any marring or any marks down here, because you don't want like a flat spot to happen right there. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to take a pencil, and I need to start to kind of define where, and I'm not going to do this whole thing, don't worry. It takes a little time, but I'm going to draw lightly first, and my original plan has been altered somewhat, because I had to put little pieces of clay where there was an opening right there, and that's what created this little spot right there. And the clay should be dry enough so when you start to do this, see these little shavings that are happening? They should pretty much fall away. If they continue to stick to the clay, your clay's too wet to do this final stage. So I'm just kind of digging a little deep. You can see the graphite sticking to the clay. That burns away, don't worry. So I'm just going to kind of clean up these circles where I scored and attached them. And this coil, I'm going to let it go up here. And even on mine too, guys, a few things happened that weren't planned. There's an extra coil right here. See that? Where over here there's only one. That's okay, because this one didn't get as high as the other one, so I had to add one more coil to get it to be kind of level going around before I did the next layer. And that's normal. Now, when you run a pencil through these lines into a little depth, you might see that it's not real pretty yet. It is not to the, there's little bits of clay that lift up. And what we do is we're going to, what we like to call, tool all surfaces. And tools are either pencils, paper clips, paintbrushes, screwdriver, whatever it is, sculpting tools. And what you do is you tool all surfaces so it looks like nothing happened, or it looks like it just naturally wound up that way. So this area down here has a kind of a softness to the edges and so on. That just looks like it naturally happened, but actually there was a lot of work that went behind it. So I'm just going to go around this one more, and that's all. So I can just show you the stages, then I'll finish it up after I finish making this video. All right, so I've kind of gone through and cleaned out most of the elements that I want to see happen. Those little beads, right? Okay, if you have a dry paintbrush, and this one's dry, or your fingertip will mostly do that, you could just get rid of some of the extras. Now, I have been finding that the smaller the paper clip, the easier it is to do this next thing, okay? And that is to put your paper clip right in the line and lean it to the left and then lean it to the right a little bit while you just barely round off that edge. So I leaned it that way. Now I'm going to lean it this way just a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of trim off that edge. That little piece of clay that gets lifted up from running the pencil through the clay just kind of pushes the clay out. So it's a pretty soft touch. So let me go around this circle. Maybe around those little triangle shapes. See, it's all pretty, get some small areas going in here. So I'm just trying to soften those areas off. Even this coil up on top, I'm going to lean my paper clip that way just a little bit. And then work around. If I see any little crumbs and things that accidentally stuck, that's, this kind of a tool can just kind of trim some of those off. So I'm only going to finish that one right there. And then what you do, just like before, remember we took a paintbrush and gave it a good polishing? You do that again. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in my brush, and I'm going to take like a lot of that water out, because I'm just rubbing it on the edge of my water bucket, and let those drips fall down back into the water. If you have a lot of water, it's just going to make a big muddy mess and drip all over the place. So I'm going to get in there and just try to, one more time, soften it. And again, you don't see any water dripping. It's just enough water to smooth it out. So hopefully you can kind of tell the difference between that center one right there and these that have only been cut through with a pencil. See, there's a more of a soft kind of completeness into that. It looks a lot better. And I still have a little bit of work down here to do. So I just went through these too, so I can come in there. And there's actually a little bit of pressure being applied with the paintbrush. I see a little bit of a gunky piece right there. And you really have to do a good inspection over the entire thing. As you can see over here, I kind of finished off this area. Right? Over in here, everything looks kind of clean and kind of apparent where you attached things. Down here, I talked earlier about doing some relief sculpting. That's not going to be necessarily a requirement unless your teacher says so, but I think it's kind of nice to have that contrast between a smooth area and some designed area. I think that's a neat little feature. Now, you would do that everywhere. See, I have more work to do. See, these are all kind of smudged and bumped together. I'll do that same thing I just did there. Now, on the bottom, a few different times, since this pot gets set on the bottom like that sometimes, this clay just squishes. So I've had to, like 2 or 3 times, carefully go through with a pencil and clean out my name. Names in clay really need to be carved and cleaned out and done in the neatest printing possible. Don't do a fancy signature down here. Okay, you don't have tons of room either. Put the quarter number, there's Q1 right there. I don't have a period number, so I just put 20. That's this year, 2020. So that's what I did, but you would put like a P1, a P2, whatever your period number is. And you are also going to have to hand in your drawing. Remember that we did the drawing. So hopefully your drawing kind of looks like what you've finished with. And that's it, you guys. Then you will drop this off when you're all done. Again, keep it wrapped up in plastic. I'm not done yet. So this is getting plenty leather hard. So I'm going to, like I've said before, I'm going to sprinkle a little water inside my bag. Then I'm going to wrap it up and double bag it for the weekend. Okay, because I may be done with it today. I'll work on it next time. And then I'm going to use a thicker piece of plastic. So this way it won't dry out at all. It'll kind of stay right where it is because it will dry out in plastic. It takes longer, obviously, but it will dry out. So that's why I added water in there first. All right, guys. Then we'll be ready to go on to our next assignment after you finish that up. See you later.